Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Bridges, Buckner, Coleman,
Let's do this.
Cook, Quorum,
Excused.
Danielson,
Morning.
Donovan, Fields, Gardner,
Excused.
Janal, Gonzalez, Hanson, Henriksen, Heisey, Holbert, Jaquez Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Coker, Lee, Liston, Lundeen, Moreno, Pedersen,
Here.
Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott,
Here.
Simpson, Smallwood, Sonnenberg,
Good morning.
Story,
Here.
Winter, Woodward, Zenzinger. Mr. President,
Here. The morning roll call is 33 present, 0 absent, 2 excused. We have a quorum. Will the good senator from Monument please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, and guests, please rise and join me in the salute to our flag and country. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the journal of Friday, March 18th be dispensed with and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Senate Services.
correctly and gross, Senate Bill 1018, 139, 152, Senate Joint Resolution 7, correctly revised, House Bill 1028, 1037, 1040, 1044, 1086, 1104, 1229, 1257, and 1266, House Joint Resolution 1015 and 1016, correctly enrolled, Senate Bill 2695 and 115.
Third reading of bills. Consent calendar. Will the clerk please read the titles to all the bills on the consent calendar?
House Bill 1037, Representative Hooten and Van Winkle, Senators Holbert and Jaquez Lewis, concerning the ability of a person to operate a dual marijuana business at the same location. House Bill 1040, Representatives Rich and Hooten, Senators Holbert and Story, concerning the right of unit owners and common interest communities to have reasonable access to common elements of such communities. Senate Bill 152, Senators Fenberg and Jaquez Lewis, Representatives Gray and Burnett, concerning authorization for a person whose residence is destroyed or becomes uninhabitable to continue to use the address of the residence as the person's residence for purposes of voting if the person intends to return to the residence once it is replaced or becomes habitable. Senate Bill 139, Senators Buckner and Coleman, Representative Herod, concerning the establishment of Juneteenth as a state holiday. House Bill 1229, Representative Weisman and Soper, Senators Gardner and Gonzalez, concerning adopting cleanup provisions to Senate Bill 21-271, which enacted the 2021 recommendations of the Colorado Commission on Criminal Juvenile Justice and in connection therewith making an appropriation. House Bill 1257, Representatives Weisman and Soper, Senators Gonzalez and Gardner, concerning the adoption of the 2022 recommendations of the Colorado Criminal Juvenile Justice Commission regarding sentencing provisions and offenses and in connection therewith making an appropriation. Senate Bill 10, Senators Simpson and Lee, Representatives Benavides and Amabile, concerning pretrial diversion programs that are intended to identify eligible individuals who have behavioral health disorders in order to divert them from the criminal justice system into community treatment programs. Senate Bill 18, Senators Lee and Cook, Representatives Benavides and Soper, concerning expanding the court reminder program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the bills on the consent calendar, which includes House Bills 1037 and 1040, Senate Bills 152 and 139, House Bills 1229 and 1257, and Senate Bills 10 and 18.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded as a no on House Bill 1037.
Seeing none. The motion is the passage of all the bills on the third reading of Bill's consent calendar. Are there any no votes on any of the bills on the third reading of Bill's consent calendar? Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be recorded a no vote on House Bill 221037.
Senator Cook will be recorded as a no vote on 1037. Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to also be recorded as a no on House Bill 1037.
Senator Priola will be recorded as a no on 1037. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask to be a no on House Bill 1037 and Senate Bill 139, please.
Senator Sonnenberg will be recorded as a no vote on 1037 and Senate Bill 139. Senator Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be recorded, request that I be recorded as a no vote on 1037 and 18.
Senator Lundin will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1037 and Senate Bill 18. Senator Lundin.
And I missed one, and 1257. Thank you, Mr.
Senator
President.
Lundin will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1257. Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1037 and House Bill 1257.
Senator Liston will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1037 and House Bill 1257. Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to also be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1257.
Senator Priola will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1257. Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1257 and Senate Bill 18.
Minority Leader Holbert will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1257 and Senate Bill 18. With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1037. Whoop. Sorry. I'm not going to make you all do it again. With a vote of 28 ayes, 5 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1037 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez. Majority Leader Moreno. With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1040 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez, Janal, Henriksen, Jaquez Lewis, Priola, Buckner. With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 152 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Zenzinger, Janal, Hanson, Bridges, Donovan, Kolker, Winter, Lee, Buckner, Gonzalez, Rodriguez, Minority Leader Holbert, Cook, Woodward, Priola, Smallwood, Rankin, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Lundin, Simpson, Heisey, Story, Fields, Pedersen, Coleman. Majority Leader Moreno. With a vote of 32 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 2 excused. Senate Bill 139 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Priola, Jaquez Lewis, Bridges, Donovan, Hanson, Henriksen, Kolker, Gonzalez, Janal, Zenzinger, Winter, Lee, Danielson, Fields, Story, Pedersen, Majority Leader Moreno. Please add Rodriguez. Please add the president. With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1229 is passed. Co-sponsors. With a vote of 29 ayes, 4 noes, 0 absent, 2. And the last one? Senator Lee will be recorded as a co-sponsor for House Bill 1229. With a vote of 29 ayes, 4 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1257 is passed. Co-sponsors. Majority Leader Moreno. Senators Lee, with a vote of 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 10 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Hanson, Donovan, Winter, Gonzalez, Buckner, Bridges, Jaquez Lewis, Rankin, Priola, Kolker, Janal, Fields, Pedersen, Zenzinger, Majority Leader Moreno. Please add the president. With a vote of 31 ayes, 2 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 18 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Bridges, Priola, Hanson, Gonzalez, Donovan, Buckner, Winter, Fields, Pedersen, Kolker, Majority Leader Moreno. Please add the president. Story. Third reading of bills, final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1044?
House Bill 1044, Representatives Williams and Kennedy, Senator Bridges, concerning the selection of members of vacancy committees by central committees.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1044 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. On second reading, I looked at this bill and I thought, well, how would this affect me where I live in Colorado? And the way the Central Committee of Senate District 30 in northern and western Douglas County works, and most assemblies in Douglas County, we do this. I thought, well, this really wouldn't be much of a change for me. But I thought about it over the weekend, and I realized there are other members of this body that have vacancy committees that are considerably smaller than the very large vacancy committees that generally meet in districts that are located in Douglas County. And it occurred to me, I probably need to look at this as a matter of local control, because when we elect people to come here, especially to come here to the General Assembly, that is purely local control. And if your communities want to do it differently than that probably needs to be okay with me. Don't mean any disrespect to the bill sponsor. I think this is very similar to how we do it where I live, but out of respect for people who don't live where I live and that you do it differently, I'll be a very respectful no vote.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I respect the respectful no vote. I'll say, though, that there is something truly at stake for the legislature in this, which is why I believe we have a duty to act in this case. There are vacancy committees with 3 or 10 people making a decision for 170,000. And this bill says that we need to have a representative sample from across an entire Senate district, an entire House district, making that decision. It's not a snap election. It is not 3 people. It is, I think, a nice representative group of people to come down and say, here's who we think should be in the legislature. And this matters because a quarter of the people in the legislature today came in on a vacancy appointment. At some point, whether they moved from the House to the Senate or coming into the House, a quarter of the people here in the legislature came in on a vacancy. And because of the power of incumbency, almost none of those people lost when the election came up the next time. So I think it's important that we're selecting the right people, that there are more than just 3 people making that decision, and I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. And my good colleague brings up a great point that a number of people were re-elected after a vacancy, which tells me that the vacancy committee did it right. And we don't need to be telling other people, other rural districts, mandating them how to choose their candidates. This truly is a local control issue. That sweet number he talked about may be sweet for him, may be sweet for somebody else, but quite frankly, these rural districts and every other legislative district has their own set of bylaws in which they can choose candidates and have done so through their election process, through delegates elected through the caucus system, the county assembly system, and then the central committee system, and have allowed them to set up the vacancy committee as they see fit for their vacancy, for their district, and for their area. That's why I'm asking you respectfully to be a no on this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1044. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, Scott, Cook, Minority Leader Holbert, Lundin, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Smallwood, Heisey, Simpson. With a vote of 22 ayes, 11 noes, 0 absent, to excuse, House Bill 1044 is passed. Co-sponsors. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1266?
House Bill 1266, Representatives Tipper and Gray, Senator Winter, concerning modifications to the state employee total compensation philosophy to provide flexibility in state employee total compensation practices.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage on third reading, final passage of House Bill 1266.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1266. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, Scott, Minority Leader Holbert, Cook, Woodward, Smallwood, Rankin, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Lundin, Simpson, Heisey. With a vote of 21 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1266 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Jaquez Lewis, Donovan, Henriksen, Gonzalez, Janal, Buckner, Lee, Pedersen, Story, Fields, Kolker, Hanson, Majority Leader Moreno. Please add the president. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1028?
House Bill 1028, Representatives Gray and Hooton, Senators Winter and Priola, concerning statewide regulation of persons approaching controlled intersections who are not operating motor vehicles.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1028 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1028. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Minority Leader Holbert, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Smallwood, Lundin, Sonnenberg, with a vote of 25 ayes, 8 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1028 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez, Majority Leader Moreno, Story, Buckner. Please add the president. Lee. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1104?
House Bill 1104, Representatives Bazinacre, Senators Priola and Bridges, concerning public recreational trails and electric transmission corridors of the state, and in connection therewith encouraging transmission providers to enter into written agreements for the construction and maintenance of power line trails, and requiring transmission providers to provide informational resources and notify local governments regarding the potential for power line trails when planning for the expansion or construction of transmission corridors.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1104 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1104. Are there any no votes? Senators Lundin, Minority Leader Holbert, Cook, Liston, Simpson, Heisey, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Rankin, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Scott, with a vote of 21 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1104 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senators Winter, Lee, Janal, Majority Leader Moreno. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1086?
House Bill 1086, Representatives Sullivan and Bacon, Senator Fields and Jaquez Lewis, concerning prohibiting openly carrying firearms at a voting location.
Senator Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1086 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. When reviewing House Bill 1086, I was reminded of the long debate on a bill back in 2013 when I was in the House that required all mail ballot voting. This state, our Secretary of State, county clerks, they manage a process by which every registered voter in Colorado is mailed a ballot. Since 2014, I have not voted at a poll location. I have voted by mail. I believe statistically some 95% of all votes in this state are cast by people who vote by mail, which means about 5% vote at a polling location, which I believe are available to voters for the 3-week period that we can vote by mail. It also occurred to me that the largest county of the 64 counties in Colorado, the city and county of Denver, has for a long time, as long as I can remember, banned open carry in all of the city and county of Denver. So it wouldn't be 5% of voters, it would be 5% less any voters who actually voted a polling place in Denver County. And then I remembered a bill that was debated last year. I voted no on it, but the majority party passed legislation last year to do away with statewide preemption when it comes to firearms. And that allowed any local jurisdiction, I believe it would allow even down to special districts and school districts and municipalities and counties, to all pass local ordinance regarding firearms. So I think outside of the city and county of Denver or any other jurisdiction that might already ban open carry of firearms in all of that jurisdiction, now the majority party has proposed that after passing a bill to do away with statewide preemption, that we implement statewide preemption on this topic. For less, I would guess less than 3% of voters, if you take out the city and county of Denver and any other jurisdiction that already bans open carry anywhere. And then I start thinking about people in rural Colorado, my friend from Sterling, or my friend from Alamosa, or he's not here today, my friend from Montrose. People hunt in those areas, especially in the fall, October, November. That's election time. So the hunting guide who comes out of Deer Elk Camp and it's election day, that last day of the 3-week period, and he or she is carrying a firearm because, gosh, there's a law specific to doing that when you're hunting in a game unit that you have a license to hunt in, open or concealed. But if he or she stops at the polls in town because, gosh, their mail ballot is back home or in camp 20, 30, 50 miles away, he or she would have to take his or her sidearm off before going into a polling location in a community where probably not many people are going to be too concerned about such things. So we're taking values, perspective of the world from the Metro Denver area, maybe the Boulder area, and applying them statewide. Why? I don't know. It's a very small population of voters who actually go to polling places, especially when you take out the largest city and county that already bans this and has for years. Then I start thinking about complicated issues. There's actually a law in the books that allows you to carry a loaded firearm in your vehicle with you. Anybody here ever drop off your ballot at a ballot drop-off box in your county? This says you couldn't open carry. Is there a conflict in the law between having the firearm in the vehicle with you, which is specifically permitted by state law? Is there any difference if you happen to have that firearm in your vehicle that's in a holster? And you would certainly be within 100 feet of that. If you've read the bill, it isn't just polling places where you would go vote, it's actually those drop-off boxes as well. So without clarity, I would still be a no vote, I guess, if there was clarity on that question. It just seems a bill that if local jurisdictions wanted to do this, they could. I'm pretty sure, based on the preemption bill getting rid of that last year. And when we really understand how few people would actually be affected by this, because almost everyone in Colorado doesn't vote at a polling place, they vote probably at their kitchen table. This seems more maybe a statement bill, and I'll be a no vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hawkins Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. This legislation promotes the safe and accessible ability for Coloradans to cast their votes in any election, whether it be in person, at a polling center, or at a ballot drop box. It already exists in several states, including Texas, Florida, and Georgia. With this bill, we'll be protecting voters from fear and intimidation during a time when we really need to do this. So I urge for your aye vote.
Senator Smallwood.
Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. I'm urging a no vote on House Bill 1086. And I think I understand the premise, and I agree with the premise. Looking at page 2 in the ledge deck, where we talk about the fact that the Colorado Constitution guarantees free and open elections. Yes, 100% agree. Right below that, all Coloradans should be able to exercise their fundamental right to vote freely and safely. All Coloradans. Yes, completely agree. Kudos to the sponsors and the supporters of this bill. Absolutely agree with the premise. The problem that I see with this, like so many things we do here, the devil is in the details. If you look at your re-engrossed bill and go to page 4, it starts to address what my concern was. My concern was, well, people are going to be intimidated if they see somebody openly carrying a firearm. So, what about a police officer? What about a security guard? Those folks open carry all the time. So when I first heard of the bill, I thought, well, we've got a problem right away because there are people open carrying all the time. Now, perhaps the supporters thought, well, voters would be intimidated if they see a gun on somebody who's not a police officer or not a security guard, but if they saw that same gun on a police officer or a security guard, they would now be less intimidated, less concerned. And that's logical. That makes good sense to me. And so, sure enough, on page 4, you'll see on lines 9, we talk about the fact that a uniformed security guard employed by a contract security agent as defined, so on and so forth, that person is okay. That person can open carry within this 100 feet. You'll also see on line 15, it says that this section does not apply to a peace officer, not a police officer, a peace officer, as described in section 16-2.5-101. And colleagues, if all Coloradans being able to vote freely, fairly is important to you, peace officer and the definition they're in should be really, really important to you. So I would ask you, since you've got phones, see most of you looking at them, laptops, statute books in the back, I would ask you to grab Title 16. Title 16, 2.5-101. And let's look at that together. I've got my statute book, so I apologize to the folks on my side of the aisle. 16-2.5-101, Peace Officer Description General Authority. A person who is included within the provisions of this article and who meets all the standards imposed by law on a peace officer is a peace officer. That's 101. It goes on to basically say, in 101, we're not going to tell you who a peace officer is. We're just going to say, in the subsequent subsections, we're going to tell you who we think a peace officer is. So, peace officers are police officers, sheriffs. Here's one, your coroner. Okay? Keep that in mind, colleagues. Southern Ute Indian Police Officer, Mountain Ute Indian Police Officer, a town marshal - deputy. Colleagues, your fire arson investigator is a peace officer, according to this section. A reserve police officer, the executive director of the Department of Public Safety, deputy executive director of the Department of Public Safety. Do you know who these people are, colleagues, by the way? The executive director of the Department of Public Safety, or the deputy director of the Department of Public Safety. Raise your hand if you know who those people are, right? Because when you see those people at a polling place openly carrying a firearm, you and the citizens of Colorado are supposed to know, I am not intimidated any longer with this non-uniformed person carrying a firearm, because that's the deputy executive director of the Department of Public Safety. So I'm no longer intimidated. Or, you know what, I don't need to be worried. That's our coroner. I know who my coroner is, Coroner Jill Roman in Douglas County. So if I saw Coroner Jill Roman openly carrying a firearm, I would say, that's Coroner Jill Roman. I don't need to be intimidated. How many of you would know that that is Coroner Jill Roman openly carrying a firearm? And that the voter is now magically going to be not intimidated. Colleagues, think this through. The director of the Division of Homeland Security, the manager of the Office of Prevention and Homeland within the Division of Homeland Security, the Colorado Bureau of Investigations director and agent, a Colorado State Patrol officer. You would assume they'd be in uniform. The Port of Entry officer, a Colorado Wildlife officer, the executive director of the Department of Revenue, or the senior director of enforcement for the Department of Revenue. Colleagues, if that person is in line to vote at a polling place and they're openly carrying a firearm, we expect the citizens to now know, there is no reason for me to be intimidated any longer. That's not just Joe citizen or Jane citizen. That is the Senior Director of Enforcement for the Department of Revenue. Therefore, I know not to be intimidated. I'm perfectly comfortable voting. The Director of the Division of Gaming. We all know who that person is, right? They're carrying a piece. We're not going to be worried about it. They can bring their heater to go vote. The Director of Marijuana Enforcement and Marijuana Enforcement Investigator. A state lottery investigator. So colleagues, if any of these people are acting in their job, and how are we going to know? How are we going to know if the state lottery investigator is on her way to work, on her way from work, carrying a pistol, carrying a rifle, to tell them, hold on, stop. Madam, are you in your scope of your occupation right now as a state lottery investigator? Because if you're not, you've committed a misdemeanor, you're now a criminal. But if you are, it's perfectly fine for you to do that. And by the way, all these people around you voting, they're not going to be intimidated because we have just declared to everybody in line that you are the state lottery investigator, therefore you are okay. And colleagues, all of these are under this section, and the bill does not define one versus the other. It says peace officer. It does not say police officer. These are peace officers according to this section. The director of racing events, a racing events supervisor, a racing events investigator, a state student loan investigator. The Colorado Attorney General, the Chief Deputy Attorney General, the Solicitor General, the Assistant Solicitor General, and get this one, colleagues, don't forget this one, the Deputy Attorney General Assistant, the Assistant Attorney General of Criminal Enforcement, Assistant Attorney General, and employee as designated, the Attorney General Criminal Investigator, your post director. We all know who that person is. If they're in line to vote carrying a weapon, we're not going to be intimidated because we all know that person is safe.
Senator Smallwood, would you like to go into your next 10 minutes?
My next 20 minutes, sir?
10.
10. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to. This is a very long list.
Terrific. And before we start those 10 minutes, Senator Smallwood, for the record, if I saw Mark Ferrandino openly carrying in line, I would be pretty worried.
Sound reason for a no vote coming from a leader, colleagues.
But carry on.
Sound reasoning right there. Bipartisan. Let's not forget a community parole officer, colleagues, an adult probation officer, a juvenile probation officer, a juvenile parole officer, a police administrator, a police officer employed by the Colorado Mental Health Institute at Pueblo. For those of you in Pueblo, SIMHIP, hope you know who those people are, because if you're intimidated by them, yeah, well, you need to tell folks you can't be intimidated by them because this is their job description. And if they're going to or from work, we're not going to be intimidated by that person. Colorado State Security Officer, a Corrections Security Officer, a Railroad Police Officer, a Public Utilities Commission member, a Colorado National Guardsman, Municipal Court Marshal, Public Transit Officers, Federal Special Agents, Colorado State Higher Education Police Officers. Colleagues, this list, oh, we forgot city attorneys, town attorneys, senior assistant city attorneys, we all know who that person is, the assistant city attorney, the chief deputy city attorney, the deputy city attorney, the special deputy city attorney, a prosecuting attorney. Colleagues, we've just named like half the occupations in the state of Colorado. Those folks, it's okay for them to open carry at polling places, and none of our friends, families, or colleagues are going to be intimidated by these folks. It's only people who don't fall into these categories. Those are the people that are going to intimidate voters. Colleagues, how can this possibly work practically speaking? What are we doing to law enforcement in our state? Going to call them over anytime anybody is carrying who is, by the definition of the bill, fully entitled to do so as long as they're in their scope of their occupation? And we're going to call the police on them? They're going to come, they have to explain that they're the coroner? Or that they're the second deputy assistant to the city attorney's manager? How can this work? Why don't we consider laying this thing over and actually creating a definition that's logical, where if we truly want all Coloradans to be able to exercise their fundamental right to vote freely and safely, why don't we narrow it to the people that you're thinking of when you think peace officer? You're probably like me. Shouldn't say that. You might be like me, where you're thinking, that's a uniformed security officer. I am not intimidated. That is a uniformed police officer. I have no reason to be intimidated. That is a state trooper in uniform. I have no reason to feel intimidated, right? Instead, the bill doesn't do that, colleagues. Look at the list. It's here in black and white in the statute books. This doesn't accomplish what we want to accomplish. This adds confusing language. It adds complexity. And like the good senator from Douglas County, the senior senator from Douglas County already mentioned, When we say all Coloradans, to me that means all. That means that hunting guide. It means that fishing guide. It means the farmer. It means the rancher. Those people who, in their course of work, bail recovery agents. And this is just me thinking on my feet here. There's probably 50 more that we could come up with. People who don't meet the definition, in our state of a peace officer, but absolutely in the course of their work can, and in a lot of cases should, be carrying a firearm. If you're a hunting guide, I don't know about you, if you've been on hunting trips before, it's pretty good if in the mountains of Colorado, if somebody's got a firearm with them, right? Fishing guides, anybody seen a grizzly bear? I haven't. But what we're saying is all Coloradans should be able to exercise these rights, except those people, except the hunters, except the hunting guides, except the fishing guides, except the bail recovery agents. Apparently we don't care whether or not those Coloradans are able to do it because they're on their way from work, they're carrying a firearm, maybe they rode a motorcycle, maybe they rode a bike, maybe they took public transportation, maybe they took Uber, maybe a friend drove them. They're coming up to a polling place and they realize, I have my firearm with me because I needed it when I was at work. And now what are they supposed to do with the firearm, colleagues? You want to put it in their car in Denver in the middle of a crime wave? Bad example, Denver can't do it anyways. In Parker, in the middle of a crime wave? Want them to go put it in the little pouch on their bicycles or on their motorcycles? That's what we want them to do with their firearms? Or what? Or we're going to just tell them, we don't want you to vote. Is that what we want? We want to tell those folks, all Coloradans should be able to exercise their fundamental right to vote freely and safely, except you. This bill needs serious work, colleagues. And I absolutely, 100% am committed to free and fair elections in this state, 100%. And once we fix the details of this, then we can have a real conversation about it. Because right now, I can't see that anybody could support it. So I'd ask for your no vote on House Bill 1086, and colleagues, very much appreciate your time.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I want to address my comments to the two senators from Douglas County, and I'm so glad that you guys are for safe and free elections, because that's so very important. But we can't be dismissive. When we have one senator mention that only 3 or 5% of the people in Colorado go to polling stations, then we can't discount those who do. Because I can tell you there is a long-standing practice for some people who want to physically go into a polling station or to drop off their box or ballot. Because it's a tradition for them to do that. So if it's 3% or 5% or whatever number you came up with, that's okay. Because it's all about having access to the ballot box. And it doesn't matter how you plan to do it. And as it relates to this list of folks that you just heard one of the senators mention, the Attorney General, the Department of Revenue, the Postal Services, the difference between a peace officer and law enforcement and those kinds of things. Those people most likely fall into the other percentage. The people who are using and exercising their right to cast their ballot by mail. Those folks are probably doing it like you said at the kitchen table, and they're putting a stamp on it or whatever, and they're mailing it. So I don't see that there's this divide between this perception that we're anti, or some folks are anti-hunters or rural or those kinds of things. No, this is all about having to vote without fear. And there was an incident in Arapahoe County where we had 2 armed guys in tactical vests, and they had body cameras on them. And they were filming people as they were entering that facility. And that was in 2020 during the presidential race. And I can tell you, it was very intimidating for some people to see someone like in tactical gear with armed weapons. The police were called and no action was taken because they had a right to do so. When you look up at the right to vote, especially as it relates to African Americans, there were always barriers to suppress the vote. There was a time when they had literacy tests. There were times when you had to count how many bubbles are in a bar of soap. And for me, if I saw someone with a gun at a polling station or at a facility, I would probably find another way to cast my ballot. But not everyone has the luxury of time that maybe could, find out an alternative way to cast their ballot. Voting without fear is to ensure that every person has the right to vote despite their zip code. It has nothing to do with this list that was just read to you. In my view, that's just a smokescreen. The bill clearly outlines that you have to be 100 feet away. The same when you do electioneering. I mean, you just can't go out and campaign close to a ballot box. You already heard the co-prime sponsor mention the many states that are creating clarity around this piece of legislation. So members, don't get confused about what this is all about. It's about protecting our democracy through the ballot box. That's what we're trying to do. And so I am in strong support of this bill and request that you vote aye on this bill as well.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to urge your opposition or no vote on House Bill 22-1086. I think that we have heard a number of arguments well articulated from the senior and junior senators from Douglas County about the internal challenges that exist in this bill, the complications, quite frankly, some of the absurdities that exist within this bill. I see the sponsor and others working feverishly over the bill and the law books here, thinking about perhaps how they could address some of these issues. So I renew the call that we lay the bill over. Let's lay this thing over, and if we can figure out some way to get at that goal we all care for, free, fair, open, active elections by all legal voters, then we could move forward. But as for this moment, it seems to me, given the complexities and brokenness inside this bill, that it is nothing but a red herring. You all know what a red herring is. It's something that's designed to mislead or distract. It's the shiny object over here for some of us. It can be a logical fallacy or a literary device or some direct action that distracts from the real underlying issue. And I would argue that potentially the real underlying issue here is a nibbling away at a constitutionally guaranteed right, the right to keep and bear arms. And there are circumstances when it's for protection and just a part of a person's career. Now, back to the red herring idea, it originated, and everybody says red herring, what the heck does fish have to do with anything? 1807, a long time ago, a British polemicist, William Cobbett, came up with this, and what they did, they would take smelly, stinky fish out to distract the dogs off who were on a fox hunt. It was a way of distracting the dogs away from that which they were pursuing. Okay, so the metaphor comes to us. We're pursuing free, fair elections, all in agreement in this chamber in pursuit of that. But there's challenges in this bill that actually create an infringement upon a pre-existing constitutional right in an unnecessary way. And because of that, and because that is the greater potential threat that this might get to, I urge your opposition to House Bill 1086. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in opposition of this bill. Much like all the gun bills that I can think of that we've passed down here, even since starting of 2013, it's nothing but a feel-good, do-nothing bill. We are trying to make everybody feel good. It's not going to do anything. If somebody goes to a poll, go to the polling place, and they, oh, I can't carry open, I'm just going to put the gun underneath my jacket, and then no one's going to know. So we haven't really solved anything. People are still going to carry their firearms in the polling places. Some of them might be doing it illegally, but no one's going to know. That's what we're going to do, is force them to break the law, because they have a constitutional right to carry openly. But we're going to make them criminals again because of our gun bills, our feel-good, do-nothing bills. If the whole goal was to not have voters intimidated, why are we limiting it to firearms? I remember an election a couple years ago, I believe it was the Obama election. There were two Black Panthers standing outside a polling place, at the front doors of the polling place, with baseball bats, intimidating people to come in to vote. And I think they did a good job of it. Got national news coverage. So why are we limiting it to firearms? If we're really concerned about intimidating people at a polling place, why don't we say all weapons? We have a definition here at the Capitol in statutes of what deadly weapons mean. Deadly weapons mean a firearm, whether loaded or unloaded, or a knife, bludgeon or other weapon. That would include baseball bats, 2x4s, etc. Standing at a polling place within 100 feet, intimidating voters who want to come in and exercise their free right to vote without fear or intimidation. But yet we have people with baseball bats, knives, or other weapon, device, instrument, material, or substance, whether animate or inanimate, that in the manner it is intended to be used, is capable of producing death or serious bodily injury. Again, why is it just firearms? If we really care about free and open elections where people are not intimidated, why aren't we including knives, open knives, carrying baseball bats, 2x4s, or other items that could cause serious bodily injury to a voter? Because we don't care about that. All we care about is feel-good, do-nothing bills when it comes to firearms. So I too would ask for a no vote on this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I rise too in opposition to this bill. I'm from El Paso County, and has been mentioned here several times over the last 6 or 8 years since we've had no polling places where people can come in and drop off their ballots. Don't get me wrong, I really miss the polling place, because that's the way that I was raised. I like to go in there and drop my ballot off, but in El Paso County, I don't believe we can do that anymore. You can drop the ballot off at a box, but you can't go in there and stand in line and see your neighbors and commiserate for a few minutes and vote and do your civic duty. So, you know, I'm thinking, well, really, what good would this under this piece of legislation do? Personally, I've been around. I can only speak about El Paso County and maybe one other county that I'm in frequently, in the good senator from Alamosa's district, Huerfano County. I'm down there a fair amount, and I've seen a number of people that open carry, and quite frankly, the open carry in the stores where they're legally allowed. And, you know, I'm speaking for myself, they're respectful. I know that the vast majority, if not all of them, have gone through the various requirements, and they do it safely. And I feel very comfortable around people who are open carrying. Now, I'm speaking for myself. And I certainly wouldn't feel intimidated if we had a polling place where they could, if someone was open carrying. But like the good senator from Weld County said, geez, if someone was really nervous, all they have to do is take the firearm and take it out of their holster and put it somewhere they can't see it, and then nobody knows the difference. So, you know, I really see this as a piece of legislation that has no teeth and that will do no good. So with that, I would respectfully ask for a no vote on this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's really interesting what happens here on thirds when I get an invitation to open up the statutes, because that's one of my favorite things to do these days. The good senator from Douglas County, from Parker? From not Parker? From Parker. The good senator who doesn't live in Parker but represents somewhere in Douglas County invited us to open up the statute books to check out Title 16, 2.5 subsection 101, which is the exception at issue and being discussed in House Bill 1086. And then invited us to all look through the large list of individuals who are described as peace officers. I will remind the good senator from Douglas County that if you read 16 2.5 101 subsection 2, that states, and I'll read for those of you who don't have your handy title books close. 1, a peace officer certified by the Peace Officer Standard and Training Board shall have the authority to carry firearms at all times, concealed or otherwise, subject to the written firearms policy created by the agency employing the peace officer. So to your point, Senator, like that is, when we think of, you know, uniformed officers, that's who we're likely referring to. Now, for someone like a brand inspector, all other peace officers shall have the authority to carry firearms concealed or otherwise, and this is the important relevant statute here, while engaged in the performance of their duties or as otherwise authorized by the written policy of the agency employing the officer. Now, I think that that clarification is sufficient. I think that that clarification is sufficient. If a coroner is going to vote, that is not their duty. That is not their, they are not at that moment engaged in the performance of their duties. And so I would, I appreciate the conversation. I always appreciate an invitation to go check out our statute books, but I think the language is sufficient, and I ask for an aye vote on 1086.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much. I rise to renew my call that this be laid over and worked on a little bit more, House Bill 1086. In response to the comments that were just made, what we've got here is a bill that imputes or seeks to manage people's perceptions, and in order to do so intrudes upon other people's rights. One of the 10 enumerated rights in the Bill of Rights. The reality is, it's incumbent upon the individual who is within their rights to make sure that people are not somehow concerned. And the consequence that comes to those people, don't lose this. A person who thinks they are or is behaving within their rights, the fishing guide, the hunter, the rancher, the farmer, the someone who currently carries as part of open carries, as part of their life, their work, their come and go, and perhaps any one of the enumerated individuals that we've talked about at some length here who have the capacity, the right under this bill to carry, but they would not necessarily be known as one of those people. So now we've got a jumbled up mess of humanity who is all seeking to do a fundamental thing, a fundamental right guaranteed under the Constitution, keep and bear arms. And they wander into this circumstance where they are now at threat of not only loss of their firearm, but their liberty. Penalty: any person who violates this section is guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction thereof shall be punished by a fine of not more than $1,000 or by imprisonment in the county jail for not more than 364 days, almost a year, locked up, or by both fine and imprisonment, except, and this is new language added in the House, for a first offense, the fine shall not exceed $250 and only a half a year locked up. So perceptions and the desire not to be offended, intruding upon an actual physical right of a citizen of the United States. I renew my call for a no vote on this as complicated, incomplete, perhaps well-intended, but not well-considered. And I urge your no vote on House Bill 1086. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hawkins-Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. No voter should ever worry that they might be threatened, injured, or traumatized just for casting a ballot. Voters deserve the basic American right to cast a ballot without a man looking over them with a gun. It's our job to preserve that right for our constituents, and that's what this legislation does.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1086. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, Minority Leader Holbert, Cook, Woodward, Priola, Smallwood, Lundin, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Rankin, Heisey, Simpson, Scott. With a vote of 20 ayes, 13 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1086 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Gonzalez, Majority Leader Moreno, Kolker, Lee, Buckner, Winter, Hansen, Danielson, Pedersen, Story, Coleman. Please add the President. General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Coleman will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all bills on the General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
Senate Bill 126, Senators Sonnenberg and Donovan, Representative Holtorf, concerning a requirement that the Colorado Water Conservation Board prioritize water storage in the South Platte River Basin and choosing projects to finance with money from the Colorado Water Conservation Board Construction Fund. House Bill 1250, Representatives Woodrow and Pico, Senators Zenzinger and Woodward, concerning non-substantive changes to Title VII of the Colorado Revised Statutes. House Bill 1245, Representatives Doherty and Van Baber, Senator Zenzinger, concerning clarifications related to the Foster Youth and Transition Program. House Bill 1211, Representatives Soper and Gonzalez Gutierrez, Senators Lee and Gardner, concerning the continuation of the Committee on Juvenile Justice Reform and in connection therewith implementing the recommendation contained in the 2021 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies to sunset the Committee on Juvenile Justice Reform. House Bill 1038, Representatives Doherty and Van Baber, Senators Moreno and Garner, concerning client-directed legal representation for youth and court proceedings for youth.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the passage of all the bills on the consent calendar, which includes Senate Bill 126 and the associated Agricultural and Natural Resources Committee report, House Bill 1250, House Bill 1245, House Bill 1211 and the associated Judiciary Committee report, and House Bill 1038 and the associated Judiciary Committee report.
Is there any discussion on any of the committee reports on the consent calendar? The motion for the body is the adoption of all the committee reports on general order, second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee reports are adopted. Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills in general order, second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 126 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered and engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1250, House Bill 1245, House Bill 1211 as amended, House Bill 1038 as amended, passed on second reading, and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 126 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1250, House Bill 1245, House Bill 1211 is amended. House Bill 1038 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to lay over House Bill 1165 to Wednesday, March 23rd.
The motion is to lay over House Bill 1165 to Wednesday, March 23rd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Consideration of resolutions. Will the clerk please read the title of Senate Resolution 3?
Senate Resolution 003, Senators Heisey and Zenzinger, concerning recognition of Single Parent Day in Colorado.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Resolution 003. And I ask that it be read at length.
Will the clerk please read Senate Resolution 3 at length?
Thought we were going to split that duty.
Senate Resolution 3, Senators Heisey and Zenzinger, concerning recognition of Single Parent Day in Colorado. Whereas parents invest an immeasurable amount of time, energy, and devotion to raise their children in order to provide them with the love, support, and guidance required to become responsible, productive, and successful adults, and whereas the responsibility of raising children is particularly difficult when it falls on the shoulders of a single parent. And whereas over a quarter of U.S. families with children under 18 years of age are single-parent families, amounting to 10 million households, in 2020, nearly 19 million children were living in single-parent families in the United States. And whereas in Colorado, over 10% of families are led by single parents. And whereas the greatest need of every child is to be loved, no matter the composition of the child's family. And whereas the dedication and achievements of single parents deserve recognition. And whereas in 1984, then President Ronald Reagan declared March 21st as National Single Parent Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 73rd General Assembly of the State of Colorado that we, the members of the Colorado Senate, designate March 21st, 2022 as Single Parent Day in Colorado in recognition of the dedication and achievements of all single parents. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to Janice S. Moglen, longtime Colorado advocate for Single Parent Day.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please be seated, members. This is a resolution that you've seen us down here presenting before. The facts are there, the numbers are there. It's an astounding number of children that are being raised by a single parent, and both of us at one point in our lives have been a single parent, so we understand the duties, the responsibilities, and oh yeah, don't forget the nurturing and the love part when it comes to those children, and you're shuttling and feeding and going to ball games and other events, but you've only got so much time. There's only one of you. So that, combined with the fact that I have a fine young grandson who was raised by a single mom, make this very near and dear to my heart.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as my co-prime sponsor has said, we have been down here in the past and we've spoken to this resolution in the past, so I won't belabor the point, but I just feel that it's really important that we do take this moment to uplift and acknowledge those individuals that are parenting as a single parent and the tremendous job that they do. As my co-sponsor mentioned, I have been in that situation myself, and so I do understand the struggles. And I also want to acknowledge the tremendous job that so many of our parents in the state of Colorado do towards supporting their children. So thank you very much for your attention this morning.
Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Maybe a bit selfish, but I'm term limited, so I'm going to do it. I don't know that I've spoken much about this over the past 12 years, but I grew up with a single parent household after my parents separated during my junior year in high school. My mom passed in 2009, but I just want to confess to all of you, if there are any good qualities about how I respond as a legislator, if there are times when I'm slow to anger and quick to forgive, if there are times when I might laugh in the most stressful times and try to find humor, it's because my mother taught me to be that way. Having a father that struggled with alcoholism was hard. Having a husband who struggled with alcoholism was hard. Having a son who was dyslexic was hard. And I just want to say thank you to all of the single parents out there, whether you're watching or listening, or maybe you hear this recorded or you're here live. Thank you for the hard work that you do for children. Thank you for being examples, because that's what my mom was for me. I'm a person of faith, and I believe that she's up there in heaven. Mom, I can't wait to see you again. And thank you for laughing and helping me laugh in the face of stress in some of the hardest times. I would not be here without you. Godspeed, Mom.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you from the good senator from Douglas County and the two senator sponsors for this. I've heard this, I think this will be my 8th resolution of listening. And I've never got up and spoke about it and kind of feel obligated to give a shout out to my mom. I mean, moms are awesome. My dad left when I was 6 years old. I have an older sister, and he left when my mom was pregnant with my younger sister. And we moved close to my grandparents, and she taught me a lot too, mostly by example. What she did, just had birth, gave birth to the 3rd child. She went out and got a job out at Rocky Flats so she could support her family. She didn't ask anybody for help. She got a job. She never went out on a date. She never even got married, never went on a date with anybody, because her first priority was her kids. So she went and got a job, raised 3 kids on her own. And I learned so much from her, from that perspective. Now, I don't know where I went wrong. She is a registered Democrat, but and lives in the sponsors district right here. But I learned from her what hard work was about, putting family first, about devotion, taking care of your family. So I too want to give a shout out to my mom and everybody else's mom. So thank you. Thank you.
Motion is the adoption of Senate Resolution 3. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Resolution 3 is adopted. Co-sponsor, Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. We would ask that the current roll call be added as sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors for Senate Resolution 3. Consideration of governor's appointments, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all the appointments listed on the consent calendar?
Members of the Transportation Commission for a term expiring July 1st, 2025, Karen Donna Stewart of Broomfield, Colorado, to serve as a commissioner from the 4th Transportation District, reappointed. Members of the Board of Assessment Appeals for terms expiring June 30th, 2024, Claudia Crane of Crestone, Colorado, appointed. Valerie Bartel of Longmont, Colorado, reappointed. John DeRuggs of Denver, Colorado, reappointed. Samuel M. Forsyth of Colorado Springs, Colorado, reappointed. Monty Mullins of Alamosa, Colorado, appointed. And Amy J. Williams, MAI of Hayden, Colorado, member engaged in agriculture, reappointed for a term expiring June 30th, 2025. And Louisa Miracle of Denver, Colorado, occasioned by the resignation of Deborah Bombach, appointed. Members of the Colorado Tourism Office Board of Directors for terms expiring June 1st, 2025. Philip Washington of Aurora, Colorado, to serve as an at-large member from a tourism-based industry is appointed. Nicholas Regain of Colorado Springs, Colorado, to serve as a representative for cultural event facilities, appointed. Members of the Denver Metropolitan Major League Stadium District Board of Directors for terms expiring August 1st, 2022. Damon O. Berry of Westminster, Colorado, appointed. F. Robert Lee of Littleton, Colorado, reappointed. David Scott Martinez of Golden, Colorado, reappointed. Stephanie Forbes Donner of Denver, Colorado, reappointed for terms expiring August 1st, 2023. Victor F. Ritter of Denver, Colorado, appointed. Ramona Martinez of Denver, Colorado, appointed. Andrew Marshall Feinstein of Denver, Colorado, appointed.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of all the appointments on the consent calendar, which includes members of the Transportation Commission, members of the Board of Assessment Appeals, members of the Colorado Tourism Office Board of Directors, and members of the Denver Metropolitan Major League Stadium District Board of Directors.
Is there any discussion? The motion is the confirmation of all the appointments on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, all the appointments are confirmed. Consideration of governor's appointments. Will the clerk please read the appointments to the Transportation Commission?
Members of the Transportation Commission for terms expiring July 1st, 2025, Jessica Sitlali Holguin of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a commissioner from the 1st Transportation District, appointed. Eula Adams of Denver, Colorado, to serve as commissioner from the 3rd Transportation District, reappointed. Mark Garcia of Pagosa Springs, Colorado, to serve as a commissioner from the 8th Transportation District, appointed. Terry A. Hart of Pueblo, Colorado, to serve as a commissioner from the 10th Transportation District, appointed.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the appointment of the board members to the Transportation Commission.
Is there any discussion? Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not serve on the Senate Transportation and Energy Committee, but I did have a conversation with the members of our caucus who do. I was concerned because one of the things that I have opposed vigorously in my time here in the legislature is the creation of enterprises. Enterprises, for those listening, watching online, enterprises are government-owned businesses over which the legislature truly cedes its oversight authority and gives it to some other body. In this case, who's the other body with the enterprises that exist at CDOT? That would be members of the Transportation Commission, and voters in Colorado might ask, well, who do we elect to the Transportation Commission? And the answer is we don't. The members of the Transportation Commission are appointed by the governor and then confirmed by the Senate, and that's what we're doing right now. But when constituents come and ask, well, what are all these enterprises? Who, for instance, created the toll lanes on I-25 between Monument and Castle Rock? Why did the legislature vote to do that? The answer is we didn't vote to do that. An enterprise at CDOT did that. Well, who do we talk to about their decision to do that? You talk to the members of the enterprise board, which includes members of the Transportation Commission. So those members of the Transportation Commission who are appointed by the governor also serve as members of the board, various boards of the various enterprises that now exist at CDOT. And we have at least one member of the Transportation Commission here who is also being appointed to at least one of the enterprises over which he would oversee. And I think it's important that the people of Colorado understand this delegation of authority that the legislature has become so comfortable with in creating enterprises that then our staff, or the members of the boards of those enterprises are appointed people, not elected, who make decisions that the people we represent, that we're elected to represent, come and ask us, why did you do that? And so often the answer is, we didn't. I appreciate the members from the Minority Caucus who serve on the Transportation Commission asking tough questions. I would assume voting no because these are not on the consent calendar. And Mr. President, I appreciate the opportunity to explain why I will be a no vote. This isn't representative government, folks, and we keep handing more and more and more of the operation of state government over to the control of enterprises that are led by people who are not elected. We shouldn't do that. Thank you, Mr. President.
The motion is the confirmation of the governor's appointments to the Transportation Commission. Are there any no votes? With a, oh, yeah, there's a few. Senators Scott, Sonnenberg, Cook, Minority Leader Holbert, Woodward, Smallwood, Rankin, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Simpson, Heisey. With 22 ayes 11 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused. That appointment is confirmed. Will the clerk please read the appointments to the Clean Transit Enterprise?
Members of the Clean Transit Enterprise for terms expiring September 28, 2024, Bonnie Trowbridge of Berthoud, Colorado, to serve as a representative of a public advocacy group that has transit or comprehensive transportation expertise appointed. Matt Fromer of Denver, Colorado, to serve as an individual with expertise in zero-emissions transportation, motor vehicle fleets, or utilities appointed. Don Block of La Junta, Colorado, to serve as a representative of a transportation-focused organization that serves an environmental justice community, occasioned by the resignation of Dainara Day at Zavala of Westminster, Colorado, appointed for terms expiring September 28, 2025. David Averill of Telluride, Colorado, to serve as a representative of a rural area and have transit expertise appointed. Mark Garcia of Pagosa Springs, Colorado, to serve as a member of the Transportation Commission and have statewide transportation expertise appointed. Chris Jones of Boulder, Colorado, to serve as a representative of an urban area and have transport expertise appointed.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the appointment of all the members of the Clean Transit Enterprise.
Is there any discussion? Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, now we're past the Transportation Commission and down to the Clean Transit Enterprise. Last year, I was a no vote on a bill that I refer to as anything but roads and bridges. You will be paying a new gas tax fee when you fuel your vehicle in Colorado. You will be paying a new fee on Uber and Lyft. You will be paying a new fee on things like DoorDash, having something delivered, a meal delivered to your home. You, the people of Colorado, will be paying more in fees. So it's not just your tax dollars, but now your fee dollars. And that bill last year, I believe it was Senate Bill 260, I refer to it as anything but roads and bridges bill. That bill helped create, or did create, the Clean Transit Enterprise and the Non-Attainment Area Air Pollution Mitigation Enterprise. These enterprises are led by these people. They're not elected, they're appointed by the governor, confirmed by the Senate, not with my vote. These people will be making decisions on clean transit, not roads and bridges. At the Colorado Department of Transportation, they're going to be making decisions on clean transit. So their decisions will use your tax dollars, your fee dollars, in ways that some people might appreciate, might support, and other people will disagree with. And almost always, those people will come back to their state representatives and state senators and ask those who oppose it, why did you do that? And the answer is, we didn't. Well, who did? Unelected people appointed by the governor to this enterprise. I will be a no vote.
Members, let's try to please keep our comments to the confirmation of the individuals that we are theoretically discussing, rather than the purpose and mission of the board that they have graciously offered to serve. Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I rise too to speak in opposition, not against the individuals. I appreciate the fact that these individuals who are being appointed, that's the generic term we use, many people would call them unelected bureaucrats, to enterprise. We appreciate the fact they're willing to serve. The challenge is, it's important that we make clear in the public record that while state government has grown by thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per year, or individuals per year, that's state employees, we've grown by more than 10,000 employees since 2012. These are individuals who are outside and in addition to the growth of government. These are enterprises. So to speak directly to the issue, I want to be really clear, because the reader does her job so ably, but her job is to read things quickly. I want to make sure people are hearing in the public record what these positions are. To serve as a representative of a public advocacy group that has transit or comprehensive transit expertise. To serve as an individual with expertise in zero emissions transportation, motor vehicle fleets, or utilities. And to serve as a representative of a transportation-focused organization that serves an environmental justice community. Then an additional location or qualification is to serve as a representative of an urban area that has transit specifically, not roads and bridges, but transit expertise. So it's nuanced, it's difficult, it's challenging, but quite frankly, it's important that the people understand the government that they are creating and the government that the government is creating. The elected representatives, Type 1 board, transportation board, and then these additional non-elected enterprises that are being stood up, and all of which collect a tax of one form, fee, tax, collect part of the hard-earned dollars of the people of Colorado. Thank you, Mr. President. I urge opposition to these, not because the individuals are not qualified or bad, but quite frankly, the positions to which they are being filled do not deserve to be in law. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there any other discussion? The motion is the confirmation of the governor's appointments to the Clean Transit Enterprise. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Minority Leader Holbert, Woodward, Smallwood, Rankin, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Lundin, Simpson, Heisey, Sonnenberg, Scott. With 21 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, those appointments are confirmed. Will the clerk please read the appointments to the non-attainment area air pollution mitigation enterprise?
Members of the Non-Attainment Area Air Pollution Mitigation Enterprise for terms expiring at the pleasure of the Governor, Danielle Stacy Suniga of Greeley, Colorado, to serve as an individual with expertise on environmental justice, or public health issues. Appointed. Lynn Bach of Brighton, Colorado, to serve as an elected official of a disproportionately impacted community that is a member of the Denver Regional Council of Governments. Appointed. Kristen Stevens of Fort Collins, Colorado, to serve as an elected official of a local government that is a member of the North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization. Appointed. Jessica Holguin of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative of disproportionately impacted communities. Appointed. Leanne Wheeler of Aurora, Colorado, to serve as a representative of disproportionately impacted communities. Appointed.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the appointment of the members of the non-attainment area air pollution mitigation enterprise. And I just want to thank all the members of this enterprise, the Clean Transit Enterprise, and the Transportation Commission for following the direction of the legislature in making sure that the state can address roads, bridges, safety, and climate change, because it turns out we can do that all at the same time.
Is there any discussion? Senator Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I hope I'm not pressing too far into the goodwill of my colleagues, but I want to walk through again the positions being created. An individual with expertise on environmental justice.
Lundin, could you please limit your comments to the individuals and the confirmations?
As opposed to the positions those individuals will hold?
Correct. We're not voting on if the positions are valid or what the positions are. We are voting on confirming those people for such positions.
Fair enough. So I will not then further speak, because I do not challenge the individuals. I simply want to be clear for the public to understand the roles that those individuals would be playing. So I will suspend my comments and not press further into the goodwill of my colleagues and my president. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me the limited comments I made on the non-attainment area air pollution mitigation enterprise board.
The motion is the confirmation. Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to speak in opposition to the members who are I will be speaking in opposition to the members who are appointed to the non-attainment area air pollution mitigation enterprise. It appears that only 5 members can be appointed. These 5 members, with regard to their affiliation, 4 of them are Democrat, 1 is unaffiliated. There are only up to 7 members on this board, one of whom is the Executive Director of the Department of Public Health and Environment, or the Executive Director's designee. It appears that there may be a conflict with Danielle Stacy Suniga of Greeley to serve as an individual, because she actually works at the Department of Public Health and Environment. So she would be on a board where she is expected to, an enterprise, actually not a board, but an enterprise where she is expected to have a vote that may at some times may be in conflict with the person who is indirectly her boss. I think there is not equity here in the appointment. Again, I'm pretty sure that in the non-attainment area, we could have found at least one Republican to serve. Maybe they could have picked a county commissioner from Weld County.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the confirmation of the governor's appointments to the non-attainment area air pollution mitigation enterprise. Are there any no votes? Senators Lundin, Minority Leader Holbert, Cook, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Smallwood, Rankin, Simpson, Heisey, Scott, Sonnenberg. With 21 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, those appointments are confirmed. Message from the House.
The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bill 1001, 1118, 1202, 1222, and 1288, amended as printed in House Journal March 18, 2022. The House has passed on third reading and returns herewith Senate Bill 83. The House has voted to concur in the Senate amendments House Bills 1046, 1150, 1110, and 1102 as repass the bills as so amended.
Message from the Reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment and as amended House Bill 1001, 1118, 1202, 1222, and 1288.
Signing of bills.
The President has signed Senate Bill 42, 52, 54, 65, and 75. The President has signed House Bill 1017, 1035, 1041, 1073, 1087, 1112, 1135, and 1169.
Delivery to the Governor.
March 18, 2022, to the Governor for signature on Friday, March 18, 2022 at 2:32 p.m. Senate Bills 42, 52, 54, 65, and 75.
Announcements. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it is Colorado Ag Week, hosted by the Department of Agriculture and the Colorado Ag Council. It is really great to see Ag Week back in the Capitol, and I hope that you can join all or some of the events. Many of you probably missed a wonderful breakfast this morning with a lot of tables from the Colorado Department of Ag featuring all that they do. But there is lunch today with a discussion on Colorado's ag industry and the environmental successes that they are seeing. Tomorrow at the lunch hour, there is a virtual discussion of Colorado's drought story. Great to hear that from what drought looks like for ag producers. On Wednesday is the return of the wonderful ag lunch that many of you who've been in the building remember fondly. That will be 12 to 1, I believe, in the West Foyer in some capacity as we slowly build back to being back to normal. And then Wednesday evening, the Colorado wine industry is hosting a happy hour over at CSU's Spur campus. If you have not seen that facility, this is a great opportunity to enjoy Colorado wine, as well as to visit the CU Spur campus. And then Thursday, in an event that is associated with Ag Week, but not an official department event, we have the steak fry hosted by the Logan County Cattlewomen across the street at the Baptist Church at 6 p.m. And I would say that is a not to miss event. So please join us for all or some of Ag Week and share this with your staff and constituents. Thank you, colleagues.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Health and Human Services Committee will meet today at 1:30, but we are only hearing one bill, and that's House Bill 1008. We will not be hearing Senate Bill 98.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I want to, this is an eye-opening announcement. The Colorado Ophthalmological Association will not be having their reception tonight They will not be having their reception tonight at the Art Hotel due to weather and unforeseen circumstances. So stay tuned. I will let you know when it's going to be. So keep your eyes and your ears open. Thank you very much.
Further announcements. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate recess until 3 p.m. today. Colleagues, you do not need to return. We're just waiting for some bills to read across the desk.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will recess until 3 p.m. today.